gain insight into their perspectives, and make informed decisions before casting their ballots. A healthy democracy depends on an engaged and informed electorate, and your presence here tonight demonstrates your commitment to our community. So thank you for that. We would like to extend our sincere appreciation to our event sponsors and partners who made tonight possible. The Yavapai County Contractors Association, Sandy Griffiths. The Prescott Area Association of Realtors, Heather. Yeah. Findlay Toyota Center. Prescott Valley Police Department by our own Officer Carter. And the Prescott Valley Chamber of Commerce. We also want to thank each of our candidates for being here this evening. Running for public office requires a tremendous commitment of time, energy, and personal sacrifice. We appreciate your willingness to serve and your participation in tonight's forum. Before we begin, we ask everyone in attendance to maintain an atmosphere of respect and civility. We encourage attentive listening and thoughtful consideration of each candidate's responses. Please refrain from applause that would interrupt the proceedings, and we respectfully ask that there be no derogatory comments, outbursts, or other disruptive behavior. Our goal is to provide every candidate with an equal opportunity to share their vision and every attendee with an opportunity to hear those perspectives without distraction. The rules for tonight are as follows. Candidates are welcome to either sit or stand at your assigned location throughout the forum. Candidates are seated alphabetical order by last name. There will be no opening or closing statements. Our goal is to maximize the time available for questions and candidate responses. The forum will consist of 7 questions. Each candidate will have up to 3 minutes to respond to each question. There will be a 30-second time signal. Sandy, Heather, 30 seconds. Show the audience too. There you go, 30 seconds. And a stop at the end of 3 minutes. Stop. If the moderator, that's me, determines that a candidate's response directly references points to another candidate, the candidate being referenced will be given up to 2 minutes to respond or refute that comment. Prior to today, we asked each candidate to provide a question to be asked. Not all candidates comply with that request, so our sponsors created a 7th question. Candidates will not be permitted to have cell phones or notebooks or other reference materials at their tables during the forum. You all have been provided with pens and paper, and for the participation award, you each get to take home a Nothing's Bundt Cake, courtesy of Nothing's Bundt Cake. This forum is intended to be a professional, respectful, and an informative discussion on the issues facing our community. Thank you again for being here and for contributing to this evening's event. Let's begin with tonight's Prescott Valley's Candidate Debate Forum. Earlier today, we had names drawn from a hat, and Mr. Thornton, you will receive the first question. Here is your first question, sir. Categories are being used to describe where candidates stand. Pro-growth, smart growth, sustainable growth, or even no growth. Which category do you fall into and why?
I fall into sustainable growth. We got to have growth in any town to sustain ourselves, but we also have to manage our growth and how we do it, where we build, what we build, how large the developments are, and, look into exactly how much water we have for each development, and the infrastructure, the contracts, how we're going to work with outside investors and developers and builders, if it's to our advantage, and not a burden whatsoever on the taxpayers of this town. We need to build infrastructure before we go building way out additional 12,000 or more homes. We need much better infrastructure. Thank you.
Okay. Councilmember Schumacher, here is your question. On the topic of water, this is a two-part question. The first part is a simple yes or no answer. Do we have a water crisis in Prescott Valley?
Oh, is it two-part, like you're gonna ask me that part and then the next?
How you answer this part of it is how I next question determines.
Okay. I think we always
Yes or no? It's yes or no. Do we have a water crisis here in Prescott Valley?
No.
Okay. Why do you believe that?
I want to say no, not yet, because we want to plan for the future. I think that right now we're okay, because I don't think anybody has had a complaint about their water at home. And I think that this is something that, unfortunately, people have made water become political. And I trust the leadership of our town. I trust the leadership of our state. There are things that we are doing that are proactive, and they're going to be helping us in the next 100 years. We can all pray that the droughts end, but in the meantime, we have to worry about where the water's coming from. And our sustainability to our aquifer, the water actually comes all the way from Colorado in a slow melt from all the snowfall. And right now they haven't had snowfall. So yes, we have to prepare ahead. We have to think of what's next. A lot of other cities are doing advanced things of direct treatment right back to the citizens, and I hope we don't have to ever go that route because it just doesn't really settle well with me, but we're always looking forward to what we can do. We do right now treat the water, and we also treat what else comes out, which is called the solids. So they're actually separated out. They're treated very well. The solids are shipped off-site for 100 years. We're only 45 years old right now, and so we're still going to be adding to that problem as well. And then we're also regenerating and recharging our water. So this is something we consider. We've always been working on it. I've been on the town council for almost 8 years now, and it is something we are consistently working at. And I trust the leadership of our state with the hydrologists that they employ, with the scientists that are looking into different ways of doing things. I can't imagine we would do desalination all the way from water from Mexico or California. That just seems like it would be very expensive to me. I think that there's always going to be an issue because we're in the Southwest when they all came out here because of our weather and people settled, and now it's been the news is out and people want to come. If I were living in a community that had a lot of water but had tornadoes or hurricanes or earthquakes, I think I would want to move as well. So that's why we're a choice city for a lot of people. That's why people are coming, and we have to prepare for it. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to caution the audience, again, please, no disruptions. Let the candidate answer the question. Each candidate will get asked the same questions over the course of the evening. Mayor Palguda, your question. How do you propose we grow the general fund to pay for our police, maintain our roads and parks? Should this be through a property tax, an increase in sales tax, an increase in impact fees, or do you have another solution?
First off, World Cup, go USA. So if anyone's watching it, make sure you're cheering. Second off, you gotta treat government, like I've said from the beginning, like a business. When you treat it like a business and you run it like a business, you're able to bring more money into the general fund. When I first started, we had $1.5 million in the general fund, rainy day fund, which would be the equivalent of a savings account for you and I. We are now at $52.8 million. It didn't happen by accident. It happens by increase in sales tax, or not sales tax, but the sales tax that people purchase, encouraging small businesses, encouraging people to come to Prescott Valley, to visit, to come to events, spend their money in Prescott Valley. That is the key here. We need to make Prescott Valley a place that people want to come, a place people want to live. If they're coming here for events in this, for example, in this arena, they're staying in our hotels, they're eating at our restaurants, they're shopping at our stores. We need to make Prescott Valley inviting to not only residents, not only tourists, but business owners as well. Here in Prescott Valley, I always say we should treat it also with the business model of good customer service. And every resident that lives in Prescott Valley is a customer. So our job in town government is to provide the best service possible for our residents to want to stay here and shop here, because everyone has a choice. They have a choice where they want to live, they have a choice where they want to shop, they have a choice where they want to eat. And our goal is to make Prescott Valley the best place possible. That's it.
Thank you. Mr. Nagel, your question is, our children, our young adults, are our most valuable resource for the future. How do you propose we keep our local talent here rather than having them move to the Valley once they graduate?
I once took a visit to the Mountain Institute Training Institute, and there I picked up the value of training young people in the trades, massive trades. I couldn't believe how many different type of occupational trades that they were training them. Everything from carpentry, plumbing, electrical, building houses, every incredible occupation you can think of out there. So I got the idea that we concentrate on our young people in those trade schools as well as high school, and we invite them into the city, and we create a mentor program where they can come in and work during the summer or during off periods from school to learn the trades right within the city of Prescott Valley. They come in here, they learn the trade, they get acclimated to the leadership in the various departments, be it parks, rec, be it the police department even, interns. An internship program would go a long way to encourage the youngsters in our district and in these other schools to stay here and work here and develop a career here. They'll be going to the Yavapai College. They will, in fact, be investing their own time and money and their parents' money into learning a trade or learning a occupation where they will stay here. By the same token, we do need to provide those who don't live at home with affordable housing. Now, affordable housing is a matter of opinion, a matter of perspective. The small apartment type bungalows will be okay for a single person or a person who's just a couple to occupy, and that'll supply, and there's plenty of supply out there right now and probably more to come, where you can house these young people to try and keep them here. The more we do to encourage young people to seek an occupation here, not just get trained and leave, but to seek it by giving them adequate wages, by giving them opportunities to grow in a particular occupation through compensation, through benefits, through medical, and all the others. That's how we win the young people over and keep them as our citizens.
Thank you. Councilmember Lopez, this is your question. This is a two-part question. The first part is a simple yes or no answer. Should the town focus on attracting new businesses?
Yes.
Okay. What type of businesses should we attract and why? And how?
Very good question. We need a lot of trades. We do need bigger businesses like our Amazon, where we can actually have higher wages and attract people from outside of our area. We need doctors. We need to have. We need a lot of different trades. We need a lot of medical. We need education. All of those, once you bring those in, you're going to actually be bringing in younger families and a lot of the services that Prescott Valley needs. Now, how do we do that? We have to grow, and we have to be able to be in a position where we can attract those and not turn them away at the door.
Okay. Councilmember Greer, this is your question. Under your leadership, what would be your top priority?
I think my top priority would be to attract businesses. In order to keep our youth here, they have to have jobs. And in order to sustain the infrastructure and and our water resources, we need to attract businesses so that people are shopping here and staying at our hotels and coming here for tourist attractions. Every time we fill this stadium, we have people staying in our hotels and eating at our restaurants. We need to increase our sales tax because that's our income for the town, and I will never support a town property tax.
Mr. Abels, this is your question. What is your opinion on Prop 492, the Lakeshore 650 project?
I'm not in favor of it. We addressed other issues earlier, and probably one of the biggest one, and I'm sure I'll get the question later, is my biggest concern is that of the water issue. My whole plan and my whole thought is we have, I want to say just for a round figure, 12,000 lots that are ready to be built on. Why don't we take a break, step back, and focus on the sustainability of, say, water? What can we do to ensure that we have the water supply that we need? We want industries here. We want to keep our kids here. We want all of these things, but I think we need to address the water issue. So no, I'm not in favor of Lakeshore 650. That could be put on hold. That could just sit. That could wait. We have 10,000 empty lots out there that could be built. Nobody's going to lose any contracting jobs or anything like that. Just focus on what we need to focus on, ensure that we have the adequate, sustainable water supply.
Okay, thank you, sir. That concludes the first round of questioning. We start back off with Mr. Thornton. Are you ready, sir? On the topic of water, this is a two-part question. The first is a simple yes or no answer. Do we have a water crisis here in Prescott Valley?
I'm going to say yes.
Okay. What is your solution?
Well, the current administration has been working on a 3-year safe yield that hasn't come about whatsoever. We've got to have better solutions, better programs. We're not getting the rain or the snow at all that we've got in the last 15 years. So we're using more water than we're putting back in the ground. I hear that we use 96 gallons per person in Prescott Valley. That's a lot of people, 52,000 people. And we're going to build another 12,000 homes. Let's just go one person per house. That's 12,000 more people. We're using a lot more water than we're putting back into the aquifer. And I've said it before and I'll say it again. I'm not a fan of sewer water being put back in the ground as our drinking water, shower water, to be used. It just, the PFAS, it's not the greatest idea that I see. We've just got to cut back some on this building. We've got to figure out what we're going to do with this water problem. I mean, you can look on any channel, the internet, wherever you want to look. The Colorado River is drying up. A lot of states are drying up. A lot of lakes have already dried up. We're in a very serious water problem in the western United States. If you think our groundwater is still there where it was 15 years ago, it is not. We haven't had the rain or the snow, and the forecast isn't that great for the next 2 or 3 years. So we've got to come up with better ideas, and better sustainability. You know, I don't know how far we cut back. You know, there are simple things we can do to use less water, but I mean, to me, we're headed into a very serious problem, you know, in our town. And you know, this plan to bring a water line from Chino Valley out there from Paulden, to me, isn't the greatest idea. They've been working on it for several decades. It was back at 60 to 80 million, and now we're up to $360 million, and we haven't done nothing. So, you know, we've got to come up with a much better plan, and the plan is, how do you create rain and snow? You can't. That's God's creation. So we've got, as people, we've got to do something to control our water and find a better way to store it, but storing it, if it's not rainy, doesn't work. Thank you.
Councilmember Schumacher, here is your question. How do you propose we grow the general fund to pay for our police, maintain our roads and parks? Should this be through a property tax, an increase in sales tax, an increase in impact fees, or do you have another solution?
I wish I had another solution, so when other people come up with other solutions, please bring them forward, because you make it sound, a lot of people make it sound like we don't know what we're doing up here, but we do. One thing most people don't maybe realize is that the council helps employ the general manager of the town, and the general manager then also helps employ the police department, police chief. The police chief also has to worry about having a big enough department filled with qualified police officers. To me, safety in our town is the #1 concern that I would have. Right now, with the general economy and a lot of anger being out there, that domestic violence is one of the concerns I have, because it's something that we don't know about until it's after happened, or that there's a big tragedy that strikes, that somebody's now in the news. And I think that we can become a more happy and cohesive and a community that accepts people for who they are and what they need. And if we need to get more counseling in to help families do better, that would be one of my options that I would like to see. I know that our police department goes on those calls and they take teddy bears for the children, so it's the children that are impacted during all this fighting, and people don't realize what they see. So, you know, drug use, the drugs that were prevalent in our town have been cut down to 1/3 for fentanyl, and that's just not something that we were anticipating or knew about or could foresee when it hit our town. Same with human trafficking. Is it something you would expect here? And it's not necessarily here, except that it comes through here to go to other areas. A lot of people are angry about flock cameras, but yet if you had a child in a car and your car was abducted without you in it, and your child's in that car, that's the first thing you would want, is a flock camera to try to find out where they went. So there's cameras everywhere anyway. We have Ring doorbells. People are always looking at everything else as well. I don't think flock cameras are the issue. I think they're a good tool for the police department to be able to use when you're violating something like privacy. That's the biggest concern of the citizens on flock cameras. We have it so that it is not something that the public can query and ask about on those cameras for public records report. So it is privately done. We do it in-house. We don't let anybody else have what's on those tapes, and I think it's a great tool. So I think right now, the safety of the officers is always a big concern with having the right equipment to do their job. I think they're doing an excellent job. Not too long ago, we were #3 in the safety of the entire state. 3 out of 92 cities and towns is a pretty good record.
Time.
Thank you.
Mayor Palguda, this is your question. Our children, young adults, are our most valuable resource for the future. How do you propose we keep our local talent here rather than having them move to the valley once they graduate?
So there's a multi-tier approach to things. Of course, we want to keep our kids in town. We got to provide them with not only something to do entertainment-wise, but we have to definitely provide them with the jobs, right? Mr. Nigel mentioned the trades. Trades are very important. There's good trades out there, individuals making low six figures. It's a good job to have here in Prescott Valley. But with trades come opportunities for actual building jobs or building houses. If we don't have houses for the trades to work at, then those individuals are going to go where the jobs are. We saw it happen in 2009, 2010, when housing market dried up. Prescott Valley, I think we had about 19 new construction permits. They all went to Colorado, they went to Texas, they chased the jobs. So we need to be able to be sustainable for our youth. And sustainability goes from day one in kindergarten. That includes keeping our parks clean, keeping our parks upgraded, giving the children and their families something to do. So that's where it's all about with that. But we can also, though, work on providing them manufacturing jobs that can be here in Prescott Valley. And when I say that, I'm talking about the largest project probably in the United States history with the billion-dollar, multi-billion-dollar TSMC, which is about an hour away from us. That project right there is a 1,100-acre campus. They're going to employ tens of thousands of jobs. If we can get those service jobs here, manufacturing, they can then provide a product that will benefit the manufacturing plant. And we already have one here, and they have about 120 employees. All of them are making low six figures, and we can get more of that. No one says that a service provider for a manufacturing plant has to be right next door to the manufacturing plant. It could be here in Prescott Valley. Those residents could live here, work here, or work down and provide a product that goes down south. And that's a good job, and that's what we need to do. We need to focus on that. And I think over the next 4 years, TSMC will be totally built out, and that's the most important next 4 years of Prescott Valley, is to see what we can do, what we can attract, what we can bring forward and show Prescott Valley is the place that these jobs are available for. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Nigel. This is a two-part question. First part, simple yes or no answer.
Yes.
Appreciate the enthusiasm, sir. Should the town focus on attracting new businesses? Is that still the same answer?
Yes.
Okay. Which types of businesses should we attract and how?
We have plenty of retail, but there's still more that we can add to our community. But commercial and some industrial, located in the right locations, would be a good thing, because commercial industrial draws large numbers of potential employees. I think we have lots of room for service businesses here. I recently had an experience with a plumbing company, and they said they're looking for people to hire. So wherever you have some water, you have plumbing issues. When you have older homes, you have electrical issues. There's lots of service type businesses that we can draw here. And how do we draw them? Well, you advertise. We have a Chamber of Commerce, which I'm a member of, that can reach out and begin to advertise the need for certain businesses within our community. They have a fairly large budget, and so I think using that budget for advertising the needs of our community out to the outer areas that can draw people in here, draw the services in here, is a good thing. And then, of course, you have jobs within the town that are generated because there are contractors to the town. Town has funds, and they will regularly contract people to do certain jobs within the town. We don't have employees to do certain things, be it consultants, be it service providers, whatever it might be. That's another way to draw people in and to create jobs. But businesses per se are going to be motivated by the need and the supply. So it works on those two principles. If there's a need, there will be a supply, and you'll draw new businesses into the community for that reason. If not, we can't draw those kind of business. So we have to maybe think tank the kind of businesses that we can draw by reaching out to large organizations, like how about a supermarket for the north end of town. How about some other type of retail stores that don't currently exist here? We need a coalition between the town and the chamber can accomplish that if they work together in a unified effort. Thank you.
Okay. Councilmember Lopez, excuse me, this is your question. Under your leadership, what would be your top priority?
My top
Zach? You'll get your full 3 minutes.
I think they're all off.
No, mine's on.
Can y'all hear me?
Check, check. It's okay.
Okay, oh, perfect. I'm sorry, would you repeat that now?
Absolutely. Under your leadership, what would be your top priority?
One of my top priorities would be community. I have seen this community come together in crisis. I have seen this community fall apart in good times. We need to draw ourselves back to an identity of who we are, and every single person in this room and watching is a very good person. The answers to all of our problems with this town is sitting here in this room and out that's watching. We have so many talented people in our community that we need to bring everybody back and the appropriate people back to the table to talk about the issues that are truly at hand. Once we can do that, once we can put the swords down, whatever you want to call it, and stop burning bridges, then we can actually get things done for this community. So mine would be reuniting our community and also reuniting our surrounding sister cities.
Okay. Councilmember Greer, this is your question. What is your opinion on Prop 492, the Lakeshore 650 project?
Well, it's going up for a vote. Actually, not 650 isn't going up for a vote. The annexation is going up for a vote. I voted for the annexation because I would prefer that land in our hands rather than in the county. The county doesn't have the same kind of regulations. They can't control the water or sewer systems the way that the town can. So I definitely want that land annexed into Prescott Valley. At 650, I voted against. There were different things that I wanted changed in it, but I am not against growth. And I really liked the idea of there being a little shopping center there with a substation for a fire department and a police department. That part I liked very much. But I am definitely for the annexation.
Okay. Mr. Abels, this is your question. Categories are being used to describe where candidates stand: pro-growth, smart growth, sustainable growth, or even no growth. Which category do you fall into and why?
Sustainable growth. And it goes back to the basics of what we alluded to, and it's primarily the issue of water. We need to get ourselves locked and caulked. We need to plan accordingly. I do believe that in order to sustain our growth, I think we need to work together with other communities within the area here. That's to include Prescott, Yavapai County, Dewey Humboldt, because everything ties in together. In my belief, the one thing that is very important, we live in a desert, no matter how you slice and dice it. I grew up here in the desert. I was born and raised in Arizona. We need to watch our water. Without it, we can't sustain growth then. So I would just frankly say, sustain it, plan accordingly, and do our best.
Okay. That concludes round 2. Start round 3. Back to you, Mr. Thornton. Here's your question, sir. How do you propose we grow the general fund to pay for our police, maintain our roads and parks? Should this be through a property tax, an increase in sales tax, an increase in impact fees, Or do you have another suggestion?
I actually have another suggestion. I know we have a lot of vape shops here and a lot of marijuana manufacturing and sales businesses, and I think we should increase their sales tax by 2.5%. You know, it's a big business. They're making millions of dollars, and I think it's sustainable for them. You know, to put a burden on the rest of the taxpayers and increase our taxes, you know, I don't see that happening. You know, we already looking at a 0.5% increase in sales tax somewhere, but you know, we don't. We have to look at our police force too. You know, we have 100 officers, and we have to understand what every one of them are doing, and you know, and see that they're properly paid, because they risk their lives out there doing their job. And how we can increase taxes. You know, we don't need more taxes at our grocery store, because our food is already being taxed, and it shouldn't be. You know, our property tax, maybe the new development should have some kind of increase on them. But you know, taxing continually taxing the people that we already have in our town, I'm not for that. You know, there's other taxes we could do on different items and businesses and services. It would be much more sustainable for our town.
Councilmember Schumacher, this is your question.
Okay.
Our children, young adults, are our most valuable resource for the future. How do you propose we keep our local talent here rather than having them move to the valley once they graduate?
I went through this not too long ago when my son came home after serving as a Marine, and he was gone for 5 years. Then he came and he moved back in with us. So I think housing is still one of the most important things we need to work with. Even when he attended Embry-Riddle, only the freshmen and sophomore were allowed to have the dormitories, and there wasn't any room for the juniors and seniors. So they have to go out on their own and find a place to live. He was also working at Costco and trying to just stay with his head afloat with all the costs of going to such a fine university. He did learn to fly helicopters, but he's not in that business right now. So anyway, I do think that our community college has such great foresight and planning for the future, and if you could see what is presented to us at sometimes, I think you would be more amazed at what your council gets to do. We were given a presentation that showed what their vision is for the future of adding on to the current college here in town, and they're trying to make it so that the kids that are graduating high school, when they attend the dual classes and they are working towards nursing or whatever they're trying to go for in their field, they actually get to graduate 2 weeks early with a college bachelor's degree 2 weeks before, or a week before even getting their high school diploma. So I'm thinking that's really an amazing program. And when you see what their idea of what they're wanting to enhance, it was pretty amazing, and I'm really hoping that they can get the funding to go forward with everything. It sounded like that was pretty on track for that. And so now that we have the schools here that will keep our kids from having to maybe go to a four-year university right off the bat, they can stay here and get their bachelor's before they go further in other universities. So children are still our most valuable asset for the future, so we need to treat them well because they're going to be taking care of us in late life. So I would love to know how I could have made my son stay. He ended up having to go down to the valley for a good job, and he is working for a prestigious company, making good money, but it still cost him so much more even for a one-bedroom apartment. It's like $1,800 there, and it's upstairs. So if he had a place that he could have his dog and have stayed and had the American dream of feeling like home ownership, was something he was working towards and being attainable, I think he would have been here still, and he would have found a different job or created a job for him to stay. He loved it here. But, it's not too far for coming to visit. But it's one of those things that a lot of our children that are living at home right now, that's their first thought is, where am I going to go after I graduate? What am I going to do?
Thank you. Mayor Palguda, this is your question. And this is a two-part question. The first part is simple yes or no. Should the town focus on attracting new businesses?
Yes.
Okay. Which type of businesses should we attract and how?
Fast food chicken. I'm just kidding, all right? We should put a moratorium on fast food chicken, but what we need to focus on, it starts early on. It's being business friendly, right? And that starts from the permitting process all the way to the inspection process. We have to let businesses know that we want their business to come here, we want them to thrive, and we want to be able to figure out a way to get to yes. That is the goal. So the businesses, we mentioned it earlier, we mentioned the manufacturing. Of course we want manufacturing. Of course we want trades. Currently, I believe we're at 2% vacancy rate for our commercial space. That's not very much. Since I was elected mayor, we've added or filled over 500,000 square feet of commercial space in Prescott Valley. You compare that with Prescott, there's a lot of empty buildings in Prescott. There's a lot of boarded up buildings in Prescott. We don't have that here in Prescott Valley. So we need to encourage businesses to come here, purchase land or lease land, and then put their investment into building a building to help do manufacturing, to help provide jobs. That is where we need to be. And if a business knows that we're going to be business friendly from the start, and we're not going to be waiting 10 weeks to get a permit pushed through, because when I first started as mayor, that was what it was. It was 10 weeks. Now we're down to 2.5 weeks. That's time is money when you're a business owner, and you're trying to build a business, and you're trying to get started, and you're trying to make money. So we need to do everything we can to encourage that. And that's what we're doing here in Prescott Valley.
Mr. Nagel, this is your question, sir. Under your leadership, what would be your top priority?
I have several top priorities, but one of the many would be to bring this entire community together. There's been a lot of division going on, particularly during election year, and a lot of bashing, a lot of naysaying, and a lot of rumors and disinformation. I think it starts when people expect to come to a town council meeting and they're not allowed to speak a full thought or a full idea, and they're cut short, or they're not even allowed to speak on agenda items as a general rule. That's something I plan to change. Any agenda item that comes before the town council, I will open it up for a public comment. Why? Well, public comments would have prevented some certain actions of the past that now the people surged and formed a group together, and now we have referendums coming in November. Why is that? Because the people feel they're not being heard. The people feel that their attitudes or their viewpoints or their perspectives are not being realized or considered by the town council. That's why you have referendums against decisions already made. And there's numerous examples of that in the past, which I won't go into, but I will tell you, if you're a citizen of these United States, and particularly a citizen of Prescott Valley, you want to be heard. And your forum is a town council. It's not on the street. It's not on media, social media. It's at the town council. You should be heard. And when you are heard and your voice is heard and the things that you say are considered and developed, sent over to the town manager to respond to you in writing. That's what I plan to see happening in Prescott Valley. You will feel better about your input to the legislative branch of town government, which is your town council. And I believe that it has to happen every time there's a council meeting so that you walk away believing that you were heard, believing that your ideas were accepted and at least considered. We agree with everything? I don't think so. But at least that's a starting point. And I promise you that's what will happen in the future. Thank you.
Councilmember Lopez, this is your question. What is your opinion on Prop 492, the Lakeshore 650 project?
Well, first and foremost, Prop 492 is about the annexation of the property into Prescott Valley town limits. That is absolutely important because with that annexation, it gives your council the control of the water protocols. We have extremely strict water protocols and water conservation that we're working on. So that does bring that back into the hands of your council. Every aspect of that project would have to still come before council for a vote. And because we're sitting down here as your representatives, you guys do have a voice in that. But the most important thing about all of this is the water and the roads. If we do not annex this into Prescott Valley, the project is still going to be built. It's just going to be built by the county guidelines. And then the people that will be moving in, those are still going to be using Prescott Valley roads. They're still going to be going to Prescott Valley businesses. They're still going to be going to Prescott Valley parks. And every Prescott Valley taxpayer is responsible for those. So by annexing it, we actually get the impact fees, we do get a little bit of money out of it, and we have the control of the water and of the use of the properties.
Thank you. Councilmember Greer, this is your question. Categories are being used to describe where candidates stand. Pro-growth, smart growth, sustainable growth, or even no growth. Which category do you fall into and why?
Smart growth. As a region, we need to have balanced and managed growth mindset. We need growth in order to have a vibrant economy, and we need a vibrant economy in order to pay for our water resources and the infrastructure necessary to maintain those. We need, as I said, we need smart growth, and that's about all I have to say about it.
Okay. Mr. Abels, this is your question. What is your opinion on Prop 492? I'm sorry, no. On the topic of water, this is a two-part question. The first
Yes.
is... I have to ask the question, sir.
You may continue.
Do we have a water crisis in Prescott Valley?
Yes.
Okay. What is your solution to that?
I can't say as I have a solution. I'm not a hydrologist, but I have a suggestion. I really, truly believe we need to get a regional coalition together. I'm a firm believer in that. Everybody has got their straw in the Prescott AMA, no matter how you slice and dice it. We need to, within the Prescott AMA, need to all agree on how to best sustain the aquifer that we have. I truly believe that that is the only source of water that we have. We could talk about recharging it. We could talk about Big Chino, but we need to come up with a way, and we all, again, I stress, we all, Yavapai County, Prescott, Chino Valley, Dewey-Humboldt, Prescott Valley, we all need to come up together as a coalition on how to best save what is precious right underneath us. Thank you.
Okay, that concludes round number 3. Mr. Thornton, back to you, sir, for the fourth round. Our children, young adults, are our most valuable resource for the future. How do you propose we keep our local talent here rather than having them move to the valley once they graduate?
It is a tough question because, like you've already heard, we need them in this town. You know, we need the younger people. And a lot of them are getting educated here, and we need to keep them in our businesses, our hospital. We need better industry, much better industry for these people to get jobs, good paying jobs, and that's bringing industry here. To me, a lot of people want to get out of Phoenix at this point because it's so hot there, And if you own a business and your truck used to go across town in 15 minutes and now it takes an hour and 15 minutes, Prescott Valley is the ideal place for you. All you have to do is send your truck down the hill and do less deliveries and manufacture stuff here and have jobs for all these younger generations because, you know, fried chicken isn't a career. You know, we need better jobs for the younger generation without a doubt. You know, and we've got to work on it. We've got to work on it hard. It's like you say, the trades. I mean, we have a lot of older homes here, and, you know, plumbers, painters. I mean, painters are backed up 2, 3, 4 months. A plumber, you can't get a plumber right away. An electrician. I mean, there's a lot of potential here for landscaping, construction, air conditioning, heating. Everything. I mean, there's a lot of potential here. There's, you know, a lot of the homes are starting to age, you know. I mean, my home's 28 years old. It needs work. You know, things don't last forever, but the average house paint job only lasts 5 years. So, you know, there's a lot of potential to make definitely a 6-figure income here. And we've got to send them to these trade schools, get them jobs here, and we've got to give them incentives, you know, because some of the, I mean, I met 2 young gentlemen, they're going down to Phoenix to automotive school. It's expensive. It's $100,000 a year. I mean, that's a lot of money to come out of, to be a mechanic, to come out and have that much debt laid up on you. We've got to have incentives to help these people. Because the generation, we didn't have to struggle this hard when we were younger. They have a big struggle on their hands, a big time. Everything's expensive, and we need to help them in every way we can to get better jobs and create better jobs. Thank you.
Councilmember Schumacher, this is a 2-part question.
Okay.
Simple yes or no. Should the town focus on attracting new businesses?
Yes.
Which type of businesses should we attract and how?
I love the thought that we can ask somebody to come here and they'll say yes, but that's not how it actually works. The business has to want to come here, and then we do our job in trying to find them the place that's most contingent on getting them to be able to move in. I was on the economic development team when it was at the Yavapai College when I first got onto council, so that was almost 8 years ago. And one of the studies that they had done on one of the, I don't know if it was a monkey survey or what it was, but it was across the entire country, and people were stating where they wanted to go in the next 10 years. And at that time, we were only a town of 49,000. We weren't at the 50,000 mark yet. And I heard the statistics, which kind of blew me away, when it said that 75,000 people stated that they wanted to move to Prescott Valley, not the Prescott area. They did not say Prescott. They said specifically to Prescott Valley. And I thought, that's more than the people we have here now. How are we going to handle that? So everybody keeps talking about infrastructure, but you don't put in a road and, you know, water and sewer and power and utilities before you have a development. You don't just put it in and then say maybe somebody will come here someday. You put it in as you grow. So as we're growing, we're going to need to really look at our economic development in who is coming to town. Yes, we have a lot of chicken places, but that's because the chicken places are all competing with each other. And when we had the opportunity for a industrial park to be built, Amazon was just a filler in that development. Once they come, they have such a great business model that a lot of other companies come wherever they build. So if they would have come here and offered another 200 jobs, that would have helped us sustaining our actual workforce right now. And then once they built, others would come, and that would bring more jobs. And they're jobs that we need, and it may not even be something you're considering, like building guns. I mean, that's, you know, we have that near us at Prescott. but it's not maybe something that you would want to do or that you would think of or invest your money in, but somebody has. It was their idea, it's their dream, it's their money, it's their investment, and they have a right to have the American dream as well, to be able to go where they want. When we had Jasper starting out, we had a store that was going to come here and put in a grocery store up north towards Viewpoint. And they came, it was a big box name. And they looked around and then they left. They didn't come back. And the reason why is because one brand new neighborhood in Buckeye was opening with 7,000 new homes. So they had to look and say, well, do we want to go north to a smaller community where maybe we'll compete? Sorry, I didn't see the 30.
Thank you. Mayor Palguda, under your leadership, what would be your top priority?
It's sustainability. And when sustainability covers a lot of things, sustainability could be water, could be jobs, could be school, bringing medical specialists here, public safety, quality of life. Those are all things that you have to think about in a community. You have to make sure they are doing the best you can possibly be doing. Here in Prescott Valley, we've mentioned it before, we're one of the safest communities in Arizona. We went from 16 when I was elected mayor, the 16th out of 91, and we went down to single digits out of 92. That's pretty good. People feel safe in their homes, and that's important. But in order to feel safe at home, you have to feel secure at your house in regards to how much money you have coming in, your jobs, what are your children going to do, or how about going to school? Are the schools good? Are they adequate? Town government doesn't weigh in too much in regards to the school districts, but we work in a symbiotic relationship where we try to get them, do everything we can to help build them up and provide them with the resources that they need and encourage them to be better. Because what we want good medical here, right? We want specialists to come here. And when specialists come, they have families. And those families, first question they're going to find out is if there's good schools for their kids to go to. And if we have poor schools, those medical specialists are going to find somewhere else to go. So the whole goal in sustainability is to try to make Prescott Valley the best place possible, right? We all love it here. If we didn't love it here, we'd move, right? It's great weather, great people, great environment. So our goal is to make Prescott Valley even better than it is, so then we can get the specialists, the jobs, the housing, the school, public safety, parks, open space, everything we consider about quality of life. We wake up every day, you should have a smile on your face. We live in an amazing area. So our goal is to just make it better.
Thank you. Mr. Nagel, what is your opinion on Prop 492, the Lakeshore 650 project?
For the record, it's Nigel.
I'm sorry, sir. Nigel. I apologize.
That's all right. That's all right. As far as the annexation, I'm against it. The primary reason I turned against it was as soon as I finished reading the development agreement, I couldn't believe that the town attorney and the council accepted such a thing. There are so many pitfalls in that development agreement that puts too much of a burden on you, the taxpayers, once the development is built. There was one example that I read, something about a park that the developer had to install, phase 1, and then phase 2, they developed that second park, but the town would reimburse the developer for that. And I'm going, what's that all about? If you want a park in your development, you should pay for it. If you want infrastructure, you should pay for it. I believe that the infrastructure should be completed before the houses are built. Anything that's possible, be it curbs, sidewalks, roadways, whatever. But put the burden on the developers, not on the taxpayers. I don't believe that a development agreement that even begins to put a burden on our town taxpayers, our citizens, our retail sales tax, whatever it takes, when we build a sizable surplus in our budget, which we need to maintain and not be spending it because of the unknown future here in Prescott Valley, the unknown future of water, the unknown future on infrastructure repairs and upgrades and all that has to take place. We shouldn't be just spending that money. and then we'll get into another issue that I won't bring up now on a hill. But I will tell you, you have to conserve your resources for the unknown future. And right now, we don't know exactly what's going to happen with our water supplies. We don't have the technology. Of course, the Citizens Water Advocacy Group, which I'm a member of, and the reason I joined it was to learn about water, learn about the water science, learn about hydrology, learn about what things can and can't be done in the future to bring water to this valley. So if we don't spread our intellect, we don't spread our inquiries to a point where we can plan the future, and we don't save the money, we're going to be in deep trouble when that time comes, and we'll be in a budget deficit.
Councilmember Lopez, this is your question. Categories are being used to describe where candidates stand: pro-growth, smart growth, sustainable growth, or even no growth. Which category do you fall into and why?
I'm going to say every single one of those is a buzzword. But if I had to pick one, it's going to be smart growth. And the reason that I do believe in smart growth is we need to, and we as being your council, needs to look at how subdivisions are built, how water conservation is managed in new subdivisions and new housing. We need to look at the developments in our water and our public safety. And so you need to balance all of this, all of it. The more we grow, our public safety has to grow with us. If we start to grow too fast and don't put our public safety in there, then we're always playing catch up with our public safety. Then you're running into other issues that you don't want to run into. So it's going to have to be the smart growth, and we all have to work together. We're missing people at the table when we talk about affordable and sustainable housing. We don't have realtors and developers. We don't have most of the contractors association. Those guys are experts in the jobs that they do, and that creates a lot of the water conservation and the smart development that we all need. So this is not just a town council conversation, this is a community conversation.
Councilmember Greer, this is your question. On the topic of water, this is a two-part question. Simple yes or no. And please let me finish the question. Do we have a water crisis here in Prescott Valley?
Yes and no.
Why do you believe that, and what is your solution then, since you answered it like that?
Yes, well, the water issue is really a regional problem. It's an Arizona problem, and it's a problem for the states around Arizona. It's not just Arizona's problem. And Prescott Valley isn't using, when we talk about that we're using more water than we're putting back into the aquifer, it isn't just Prescott Valley that's doing that. Actually, Prescott Valley is serving as an example to our surrounding areas. We are using less water this year than we've been using in the past, and each individual person is using less water. I think that's due to many issues. One of them is just simply informing the public and asking them to conserve water, because we're using less water than Prescott and Sedona and all of the surrounding areas. And we are doing many things to conserve water. We are collecting water from the top of our civic center and the fire department and the wheelhouse and storing that water underground. We have a truck that filters the water from our hydrants and returns it back to the hydrants. It is one of our it is our number one priority that we must conserve water. And it takes each and every one of you to do your job at home to use less water. But it's for the future. It's for the generations to come. We aren't running out of water anytime in the near future, but we do want to conserve water for the future, because after all, we do live in a desert.
Okay. Mr. Abels, this is your question, sir. How do you propose we grow the general fund to pay for our police, maintain our roads and parks? Should this be through a property tax, an increase in sales tax, an increase in impact fees, or do you have another suggestion?
Well, I could say I don't have another suggestion, but really, for me, that's a tough one. I fundamentally live in the center of Prescott Valley, the original Prescott Valley. We don't have property tax. I don't pay property tax to Prescott Valley. Pay property tax for everybody else, county, fire, schools, but I don't pay property tax in Prescott Valley. So if I was to make a suggestion or consideration, I would consider, especially within the center and around in the old town in Prescott Valley, possibly consider a property tax. Sales tax, I'm not sure what it is. It's 9.8% comes to mind. I don't think we necessarily need to add to that yet, but I could see possibly looking into property tax uniformly throughout the town so everybody pays their fair share.
Okay. Back to you, Mr. Thornton.
Okay.
This is your question. Round 5, folks, for those keeping score. This is a 2-part question. Simple yes or no for the first part. Should the town focus on attracting new businesses?
Yes.
Okay. Which type of businesses should we attract and how?
Well, we have to reach out. I grew up in the hot rod world, been in it for 60 years. A lot of places in Lake Havasu would like to leave Lake Havasu. They build motors. They build all kinds of boat and engine parts. They would like to move to a better location where it isn't 100 degrees 6 months out of the year. This is an ideal location. There's places in Kingman that produce aircraft parts that would like to leave because of the heat. Vegas is struggling with businesses. They're scared to death up there, but that's another story. In Phoenix, air conditioning places would like to relocate, and I already brought that up. I mean, their trucks have to fight a lot of traffic now to do business. This is a better, safer place, not only for their employees, but to attract a lot more manufacturing places to come here. I mean, we should be attracting even off-road manufacturing places because we have a lot of trails and a lot of things to come up here and do and see, and they can build them. And I mean, we have the land, we have the space. We just need to reach out to all of them. Any type of automotive manufacturing that's going on. Not everybody wants to go to Austin, Texas. Their humidity is, 100% worse than ours. A lot of people want to come to a small town where they can do business and live life. We just have to reach out harder to more businesses, medium businesses, small businesses, and large businesses. We've got to reach out to them because, some of them, it's tough to do business in big cities. I mean, there's a lot of painters that have come to Chino Valley. You know why? Because in California, it's a $150,000 permit to run your paint booth. It doesn't cost near that much in Arizona. So we should be attracting all kinds of businesses, small and large. And we have to reach out to them. Because they're looking for a place to go, if you ask me. I mean, I have a lot of friends in Lake Havasu and Vegas, even in Yuma. Air conditioning places, they don't want to, their electrical bills are in the thousands and thousands of dollars a month because of the heat. So we should be attracting a lot more of them here. Thank you.
Councilmember Schumacher, this is your question.
Okay.
Under your leadership, what would be your top priority?
My top priority is working for the town, and what the town is its citizens. And I know there's been some division during this election, especially because it comes right at you. One of the things I have said to the people who I've never met that are angry, that come to me, is that I work just as hard for everybody in this town, and I'll work just as hard for them as I do everyone else. This is a business of operating a 50,000 person strong community, and we're all a part of it. And I just want to make sure that everybody knows your entire council is still available to all of you. And we are accessible by making a phone call, leaving a message at the town hall if we're not available to answer our phone at the moment. You can text us, you can email us, you can make an appointment. We'll sit down and talk with you about any of your concerns. One of my biggest concerns is drawing the medical people here. If you were to attend a Prescott Valley Council meeting right now, there's a lot of anger, and I'm not sure what the anger is even about. And I'm not even sure all the people even know what the anger is about, but it's kind of contagious at times. If I were a doctor and I was coming to town and I'm going to invest in a new business here and I'm going to put in my clinic and it's going to cost me millions of dollars, and I'm going to buy a house and I'm going to be living in that house and sending my children to the same school with a lot of angry people, I think I would think twice. So I think one of my top priorities is trying to say that we need to come together, have a discussion. We don't have to agree on everything, but it needs to be in a discussion without being an attack. And a lot of people think because we're public figures that anything can be said, even if it's a lie, and it's not our job to correct the lies that others tell. So we do get attacked. It's gotten nasty at times with politics. It should not. I don't think that fear-mongering is a good idea with water. I don't think 10 years ago anybody worried about what the water was when you turned on the tap and you paid your bill every month and you watered your trees. You were probably conservative then. You're going to be conservative now. And right now we're actually having an issue with having enough water to move the sewage through the sewers. So please don't hold back too much because we still got to keep things moving. I think our town is doing an excellent job. I've gone to visit the sewer plant, the water plant, all those kind of things. I've seen the wells. I've gone out to the Big Chino Valley water thing that we were talking about as well. And yes, I would have voted no on that project as well because I would never take second seat and not have the power of being a decision maker when it comes to so much money. We partnered alongside Prescott. Prescott's the decision maker because they hold more shares. We have to follow suit. I would not have done that. But now there's things that have done. Sorry.
Mayor Palguda, this is your question. What is your opinion on Prop 492, the Lakeshore 650 project?
And it's basically been covered already. It's an annexation question. Should the town have control over a piece of property, or should it just stay out in the county and let the county control what happens out there? Ultimately, at the end of the day, Prescott Valley should be in control of property that would definitely affect us. I believe another person mentioned that those individuals would be driving on our roads. They'd be using our parks. They'd be using our infrastructure. So naturally, it'd be better for us to be able to be in control over it. I do believe that the planning process of it is a possibility in regards to, we've discussed a wildlife corridor with the town of Prescott Valley. We are the only town or city in Yavapai County even talking about a wildlife corridor. And for anyone that's driven off of Fane Road, you've noticed, pronghorn out in that area. Well, this would give us an opportunity to help create what we love, right? We moved to Prescott Valley for the way it is. We love seeing the pronghorn. My kids love seeing them. We all love seeing them. This is an opportunity for us to be in control of that, and that's why I would be for it. And when it comes to basically, I think it was mentioned, it's good to save money. Yeah, of course it's good to save money. As I mentioned earlier, we saved from $1.5 million to $52.8 million. We put another $8 million in the budget, or we had a surplus of $8 million this year alone. We are on schedule to pay off our PSPRS in 2 years. And to put that in perspective, there's some communities that are $110 million in Yavapai County that they owe for public safety retirement. So we are going to pay that debt down to zero, and that's good planning. And in regards to budget deficit spending, I'm just going to let you guys all know that that doesn't exist. The Arizona State Constitution doesn't allow a town or a community to spend more money than they take in. We are not the federal government here in Prescott Valley, folks. We don't print money. We don't take out loans. We pay all of our bills. So question the individuals that don't know quite how town government finances work. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Nigel, this is your question. Categories are being used to describe where candidates stand. Pro-growth, smart growth, sustainable growth, or even no growth. Which category do you fall into and why?
Primarily sustainable growth. Sustainable growth can be defined as growth that is encouraged and allowed because we have the resources and we have the land and we have the ability to assist the developers in making whatever development they're making. One of the problems we're having with this idea about growth is we're talking about residences. Okay, residences don't make money for the town other than what the residents do when they go out and spend their money in retail, participating in the community. We're talking about businesses, we're talking about commercial growth, we're talking about industrial growth. The primary problem with all that, with the issue, is that there's a lot of land here. The problem is the landowners don't want to sell the land. So you ask a large market company to come here and build a market to serve our people. Well, they can't because they're not allowed to own the property. They won't sell it. They only want to lease it. And so that's the problem. That's the dilemma you have here. If the attitudes are changed by the landowners and allow for growth, proper growth, sustainable growth, businesses and commercial growth to help our community grow and thereby drawing more people to reside here because of those opportunities, then you'll have sustained growth. That's the definition, and we can't forget that there's a multifaceted cause for lack of growth or overgrowth. And you have to study all those issues before you make a decision without consulting the people of the town.
Councilmember Lopez, this is your question. On the topic of water, this is a two-part question. First part, simple yes or no. Do we have a water crisis here in Prescott Valley?
It's not a simple yes or no, because it's both.
Okay, fair enough. What is your solution and why do you believe that?
Well, first and foremost, we live in the state of Arizona, so every city, town, state representative, congressman, we're all talking about water in Arizona. We talk about this all the time. We have a great staff who they are looking at lots of different conservations, ways for us to get water back into the aquifer. Is there a one-time solution or a one-time fix or a one-time answer? No, there's not. It's going to be evolving. It will evolve as we grow and as we develop. But we have to work together. We have to work with our state legislators. We have to work with our federal legislators. We have to work with our town councils and city councils. And we have to have the right people in those jobs to come up with these creative solutions to safely put the water back into the aquifer. And until we can all put our egos aside and sit down and have that conversation, we're never going to solve the problem.
Okay. Councilmember Greer, this is your question. How do you propose we grow the general fund to pay for our police, maintain our roads and parks? Should this be through a property tax, an increase in sales tax, an increase in impact fees, or do you have another suggestion?
I don't have another suggestion, and I would not be for a property tax. But one of the ways is when we fill the stadium. It brings tourists here who spend money, and our income is from sales tax. So anything that will increase our sales tax is a good idea. I think for some places we could increase the impact fees, but that would be a development from development. I don't have any general idea of how we would do that, but I'm for bringing people here. I mean, we just had a huge 4th of July event that brought about 10,000 or more people here, and they were spending money here as well. So I'm for bringing in more tourists.
Okay. Mr. Abels, this is your question, sir. Our children, young adults, are our most valuable resource for the future. How do you propose we keep our local talent here rather than having them move to the valley once they graduate?
I raised 5 kids here over 36 years that I lived here. Of the 5, they all left. I have one as far as North Carolina, as far as all the way across the nation in Portland. Closest one lives in North Phoenix. So how do we keep our kids here? It's obvious. We need to give them something, an incentive to stay here. One of the things that I could see is homes, affordability. There's really nothing in Prescott Valley that they could afford. Job opportunities. Now, when I think of jobs, I think of my oldest daughter and I talking. I worked at Ruger for 35 years. I was a blue-collar worker. In fact, when I started working there, that was fine and dandy. That suited me, and that suited most of the folks that were living in this area. But the more I talked to her, times have changed. We need to come up with ways to keep our kids here, aside from affordable housing and entertainment, but something that's going to keep them here in order to get the job. Now, I'm no duty expert. I'm not a kid no more. I'm retired. So this is where it's time that we start talking to youngsters to find out what is the job that interests them. What would attract them to stay here would be my main focus. What would attract them, that they get a decent wage to be able to afford a house and want to stay here and provide for us. Thank you.
Okay. That concludes the 5th round. Back to you, Mr. Dorian, for round 6. Mr. Dorian, under your leadership, what would be your top priority?
Well, there's several things, you know. One of it is getting and keeping young people here, you know, in this town. We do, you know, I would say almost 75% of this town is retired people. And, you know, we're not going to be here in 10, 15, 20, 30 years. And we got to have something for them to want to stay here and not have it turned into a ghost town. You know, we've got to have better, absolutely better industry here to attract the young people. You know, I've talked to a lot of them. They're here, they come, they pass through. You know, they're unsure about the medical, they're unsure about the schools, they're unsure about their future. They're struggling with their $4,000, $5,000 a month house payment. You know, it's a different time. It's a different time than when we were buying homes. It's, you know, it's very expensive to live here. We got to figure out something much bigger advantage to the younger generation, to work with them, to help them come here, stay here, raise their families, you know, and supermarkets and other fast food things aren't going to work for this younger people unless a housewife wants a part-time job. You know, we have to work harder, much harder, to attract young people and businesses, you know, to come here and want to work. And industry is going to make a huge difference in our town. And it's got to be a priority to attract them. Thank you.
Councilmember Schumacher, this is your question. What is your opinion on Prop 492, the Lakeshore 650 project?
And I have a big opinion, and it's a big subject to go over in 3 minutes. As you come into town, that's the first thing you're going to see when you're coming around the corner when you're on the Fane Bypass Road. You're going to be seeing that whole section. It's a lot of land. And if it remains county, they can start tomorrow in subdividing it out and letting people put on their property what they want to do. From what I understand, they could do it right now. This is coming before us because if water is an issue now, it's going to be a bigger issue later. You're going to have a lot of different styles of homes. It's not going to be continuous. If it's ADUs that are allowed on those properties, you may see one property owner having one house and 3 ADUs. It could be very hopscotch, in my opinion. I'm not against county. I've lived in county areas where there was absolutely no management to the town. And so it's what you're going to be seeing when you come in. So when I have a big project like this in front of us, I do the Benjamin Franklin close, and I think, well, what if we do and what if we don't? What we're being asked about is annexation. I see the good side of annexation because even the country club came to the town to ask us to take over part of the area where their septic tanks failed. When you have a lot of septic tanks, there is a big chance that they can fail in 10, 15, or 20 years. The land is clay, it's going to compact, it's not going to drain, and they're going to have an issue. So if they're going to come to us in 10 or 15 years, it would have been better off to start off with having a sewer. So when we provide a sewer, we also provide the water to make the sewer flow, or you have a bigger problem. So when you're talking about a project that wants to come in and what the development wanted to do, I was excited about what I got to see. Everybody's wanting a grocery store, but they don't want it to grow. They don't want to grow here. Well, the only way somebody in a grocery store is going to build a grocery store here is if they can be assured that people are going to keep them busy and keep them in business, and they're going to make a profit. So when I saw the layout of what this could become, if the developer takes over, it's going to have paved roads, it's going to have 2 soccer fields in the park. The park is 27 acres large. That's a big piece to take care of. They are going to landscape, put in walkways. It's all going to be open to the public. That means you. So that's going to have, they were going to be putting in a fire department. They were going to be putting in a police substation with that fire department. They were going to have a mom and pop's grocery store, a medical area for having a doctor who might want to build there. They were going to have different paces of housing, so they were going to have affordable housing, mid-price housing, and luxury housing. So if you wanted to move up and still stay with your friends and your neighbors, you could still see them because you'd be in the same neighborhood, but maybe change what style of home you have. It's a planned subdivision.
Mayor Palguda, this is your question, sir. Categories are being used to describe where candidates stand. Pro-growth, smart growth, sustainable growth, or even no growth. Which category do you fall into and why?
So I'm going to go with the hybrid on this one. I'm going to do sustainable and planned, because as we've mentioned numerous times why sustainability is so important, so is planning. And some of the things that we've planned here are happening right now. And since I've been mayor, we had 4 major road projects happen, and those were planned. We're talking about Viewpoint Extension, Sunset was completed, Jasper Parkway was completed, and just now we all know if we drive down Glassford Hill Road, there's construction going there. That is the largest road project in Prescott Valley history. It cost around $15 million, and if it wasn't for our relationship with the state legislators, when they were able to go out and get $10 million for us, that road project wouldn't have happened for probably another 7 years when we could afford it. So when it is done, it's going to be 3 lanes, north and south, all the way from 89A to Highway 69, with sidewalks, bike lanes, and gutters. The road takes on 35,000 cars a day. It was planned to, and that's what we're doing to take care of that. And when it comes to other things, we talk about infrastructure with parks. Parks are important to Prescott Valley. Why are they important? Because the average age resident in Prescott Valley is 47 years old. 47 years old, they have families, they have relatives, and they enjoy parks. They create core memories at parks, and it's our job, as I mentioned earlier, to provide a customer service to our residents and have them have a high quality of life. That's all part of planning. Same with when we decide on schools, or if we're talking about jobs, or if we're all just talking about, we can talk about water as well, but I know my next question is going to be about it, so I'm going to save my answer for that one. But the whole goal, folks, is to be sustainable and to have a plan for the future. And Prescott Valley has that.
Mr. Nigel, on the topic of water, this is a 2-part question. Simple yes or no. Do we have a water crisis here in Prescott Valley?
Yes, we have a water crisis.
That's all I want to know for right now.
I'm sorry. Yes, we do.
What is your solution to that crisis?
I have no personal solution, but I've been studying a lot about the water situation facing us in this valley. It was said previously, this is a regional issue. This is a state issue. We're relying on water coming from other states. We cannot sustain taking water out of our aquifer and not replacing it. There's certain efforts being made currently by the town in water conservation. However, gee whiz, over 3 years ago, they agreed to a policy to reach, I can't remember the name of it, but it's to sustain water by 2025. Well, gee, it's 2026, and it happens to be an election year. So now they're picking up steam and creating conservation programs and consulting consultants to do all this. Well, gee whiz, we've known for 3 years that this should have been started 3 years ago, but it didn't happen. So we have to continue to save money because of the unknown down the road. We don't know exactly what's going to happen with our water resources between now and 2 and 3 and 4 years down the road. So we have to be prepared for it, save our dollars in the event we need to do more that will cost us. Now, collaboration of the mayors of the Quad Cities is an excellent idea. You have power in numbers. So if you have 4 mayors, 5 mayors, whatever there are in total, going to the state legislature, going to the federal government to seek their assistance, which they have a responsibility, in part, to secure our water resources that they, in fact, had something to do with losing. And so all we have to do is bond together, form a coalition, work together, and seek these solutions through the state or the federal, as well as our local efforts that we make here. Whatever efforts we make here is minuscule compared to what can be done if we form a coalition of governments together working for the common goal. Prescott needs it just as bad as we do. Actually, all the Quad Cities are going to be facing the same problem. And we sold our affluent water rights, remember, back in '07. Sold them to a venture capital company in New York. Bad move, but we're stuck with it. We have to live with it and hopefully save up enough money to buy it back.
Councilmember Lopez, this is your question. How do you propose we grow the general fund to pay for our police, maintain our roads and parks? Should this be through a property tax, an increase in sales tax, an increase in impact fees, or do you have another suggestion?
I do not have another suggestion. And I am not in favor of property taxes at all. So we're left with sales tax and impact fees. Are those an end-all, be-all, say-all? No, they're not. As somebody had said a little earlier, we need to run the town as a business, and a business has a budget, and we need to take really long, hard looks at what our budget is, how we can not overspend, which we're not legally allowed to do, and there just isn't one solution to this answer, but we do have to grow, and the mayor has actually grown it from $1 million to over $58 million. Do I see us being able to continue and sustain that and develop a better rainy day fund to keep us from having to do property taxes and increase sales taxes? Yes, I do. I think if you have a highly educated council who can sit down and tear that budget apart and look at it and see where we can save the money, we can continue to build that rainy day fund and in the general fund.
Councilmember Greer, this is your question. Our children, young adults, are our most valuable resource for the future. How do you propose we keep our local talent here rather than having them move to the valley once they graduate?
Well, one way is to have them love this town and that we provide them with activities that keep them busy. One of our library provides a whole lot of activities for our young people. I've been at the town center and watched when the schools get out, you see dozens of kids from all the different schools going right over to the library, which is wonderful. It's to provide them with physical activities. We have wonderful parks. We have upgraded our parks, added light at night, and upgraded our playgrounds so that they have a place to play. We have our Little League baseball teams for the kids to play on. And we have our four wonderful big events that we have each year, like 4th of July and Christmas and summer and fall, that you see the kids in the bounce houses and the pony rides and the carnival rides, and all of those things bond us as a community and make you love this place and make our kids love this place. But we also, once again, have to provide them with jobs and homes to live in. And that requires new businesses to be attracted to our town. Once again, we want them to be busy and happy.
Okay. Mr. Abels, this is your question, sir. This is a two-part question. First part is simple yes or no. Should the town focus on attracting new businesses?
Yes.
Okay. Which types of businesses should we attract and how?
That is a good question. Back in the days of old working at Ruger, I would say any manufacturing plant that we could bring in here to help the town of Prescott Valley, and especially for the kids. But now I'm redirecting, I'm rethinking. This is where I would need to go, frankly, to the duty expert on businesses. And I'm not talking about bringing in businesses like AIs that we heard about, the AI, whatever the fancy big thing is for the AI and the use of water, anything else. But I'm talking about businesses that I would defer to the experts to talk to and find out what would be the better business for Prescott Valley. I think we need it. This is the very thing that's going to keep those that are young staying here. This is the thing. The times have really changed, and we need, as a town, to change with the times. Manufacturing isn't like it was back in the days. And I don't really know the term for it. I mean, I want to say service. IT comes to mind. Computers. Something in there to help keep our kids. So yeah, I believe we need to bring business in here. I just don't really rightly know what kind of business we could bring here.
Okay. That concludes round 6. Now our final round. It's going back to you, Mr. Thornton. What is your opinion on Prop 492, the Lakeshore 650 project?
It's very concerning, you know, because we've switched from 350 homes to 3,500 homes over a long period of time. You know, we don't know how long that long period of time is, building homes and infrastructure. And, you know, and I think the infrastructure is huge, you know, in who's going to pay for what, you know, and that's a lot. I would hate to see another Granville, you know, rooftop city out there in all that beautiful open land. You know, I know there's a promise of a sub-police station, a medical facility, a store. You know, who's going to pay for what, how it's going to be done. It's very concerning. You know, it's a lot of traffic. It's a lot of traffic that's going to be going, you know, is everyone going to be going out around or in through the middle of town on Lakeshore Road? It's a concerning development, you know, to the facts and the truth of how it's going to be done, who's going to pay for what, again, you know. And the biggest issue, obviously, is the water. It's going to be you know, 3 years ago there was a conversation about safe yield, and it still hasn't happened. You know, our water is going to be a big issue. It's going to be a concern for this project, you know, and it's built out there on a riverbed, you know, and I'm concerned about the antelope. I used to see them out there a lot. Now you hardly see any at all whatsoever. You know, I'd like to see a more open. That's why I moved here. Open, you know, an open small town that we can enjoy the spaces, you know, and the beauty of the land and what it is. Thank you very much.
Okay, Councilmember Schumacher, this is your question.
All right.
Categories are being used to describe where candidates stand. Pro-growth, smart growth, sustainable growth, or even no growth. Which category do you fall into and why?
Well, I'm not no growth, I can tell you that, because I think people come whether you want them to or not. They're going to have the same ideas that we had in moving here. Pro-growth, smart growth, and sustainable growth can all be lumped together, in my opinion. When you're building and you're a developer, you're looking at how many homes you need to build in order to keep your crew and their families employed and fed. So I think that when you're a developer, you're looking at making X amount of homes in order to stay in business and make a profit. Everybody wants to make a profit. Nobody wants to see someone not succeed. I think there's a lot of jealousy on wealth here because people think that all developers are really big and making a lot of bucks and that we're all in their back pocket. I don't understand that at all because I don't have that money. So anyway, on growth, there's different types of growth and there's different types of homes. So mostly we're talking homes in order to have the workforce to work in the buildings that are going to be coming for the businesses that are here. You have a lot of people that say it's hard to build a affordable or a workforce type housing, but most of us have grown up or look at today that you have granite counters instead of the Formica. You have nice wood plank floors that are hand hewn instead of the laminates that are out there. There is ways to make affordable homes be built, a mid-size home and then a luxury line. So in that, when you're building, you have the same thing in a small home you have in a large home. You still have to bring in electricity and water and sewer, gas, fiber optics. You have all those things you have to bring in for each and every home. Whether it's a small house or a big house, they all have a kitchen, a bathroom, living room, bedrooms. I know that my first home was a mobile home, and I bought the lot. It was at 7th Street in Union Hills, and I brought the mobile home down from the Buttes, which became a big, huge resort. And I was able to put the two together. It was 3 bedrooms, 2 baths. It was a great starter home, and I made $30,000 profit when I sold it because I had the ability to get into something that was not so grand, but I made it be better. So you have the option of, there's a lot of homes right here now. If you're building more nicer homes, people are going to move into them. They're going to like what they see and they're going to move up. They're going to take a chance with their money and then that house that they're in now becomes available. So it's a cycle. People are going to move around. Most people move every 9 years is what the statistic is today. I don't know what else to say on all of that. Impact fees and things in building, you only get if you're building. So, you know, if you want to talk about taxation, no, I don't want to pay more taxes. We all live here too. So if you have ideas of what we can do on different things, please bring them forward to your council.
So,
Thank you.
Okay. Mayor Palguda.
No, it's Steve.
Huh?
I already know the question.
Yes or no, sir?
So it's a yes and no.
Okay.
Is my response
Please
to that.
explain.
And I'll explain it. If we were to look at Safe Yield on what we have, are we drawing more water out of the ground than we were putting back in? Absolutely. We are doing it. Everywhere in the state of Arizona is not reached Safe Yield. So if you were to look at it as a business, would the business, if you were losing money every single month, it's a bad thing. Poor business model. But your job is to try to figure out ways to minimize that and eventually make a profit. So that's what we're doing here in Prescott Valley. We're trying to create one of the most aggressive water policies in Yavapai County. That means educating our citizens. That means practicing what we preach. That means doing what we can to preserve and conserve water. So what does that mean? Is it working? I think it is. Prescott Valley, we use 96 gallons per person per day. That is the lowest in Yavapai County, folks. Prescott's around 100. Sedona, they're about 110. We use about 5 million gallons of water a day. Sounds like a lot. It is a lot. It's about 7.5 Olympic-sized swimming pools. So what do we need to do? We need to keep pushing with innovative ideas, with pilot programs, and try to figure out what is the best way to get to Safe Yield. We've heard up here that Safe Yield was talked about 3 years ago. Safe Yield's been talked about for decades, folks, not 3 years ago. So I'd also like to, that's my view on water, so I still have a little bit of time left. I want to touch on a couple other things. Grocery stores, blaming a landowner for not wanting to sell their land, it's not true. So when you go home, pull up Yavapai GIS, go look at the location of our soon-to-be open grocery store, Aldi, and see who owns the land. It's going to be Aldi, all right? That's how it works. So at the end of the day, don't blame the landowner. Blame the grocer that wants to or doesn't want to come here. Again, we have to be business friendly. We have to go out there and attract them. And I'm saying it right now, within the next year, I guarantee, I'm going to say it, I'm going to guarantee that we are going to announce at least one new grocery store in Prescott Valley, if not two. One probably will be up in 89A. So I'm confident of that. Why am I so confident? Because there's been conversations, and never has the conversation come up and said, you know, we're not really interested in coming to Prescott Valley because we can't buy the land. There's nothing to do with it, folks. And then finally, if you're going to be mayor, just know there's 9 mayors in Yavapai County.
Mr. Nigel, I'm going to give you a chance to redirect because I was geared towards you. You have up to 2 minutes to redirect before I ask your next question.
Well, if you heard me, I alluded to the Quad Cities, not the entire county of Yavapai. This is how distortions occur. You take a little bit of something said and you turn it around, and all of a sudden, an idea about 2 water meters on brand new building turns into 8 water meters. This is how it happens. It's a distortion. It's a lie. So, hey, I'm used to it by now. Been at this since last November. I have to listen to every distortion under the sun. I'm not angry about it. I'm just really tired of it.
Okay, here's your question, sir. How do you propose we grow the general fund to pay for our police, maintain our roads and parks? Should this be through a property tax, an increase in sales tax, an increase in impact fees, or do you have another suggestion?
I'll not make a statement that says absolutely no property tax, because that's something that may have to be faced in the future, the far distant future, hopefully. But I think that impact fees, when developers come in, they're the ones you hit up. They're the ones who want to drain the resources. They're the ones who want infrastructure built. Well, then they should pay for it. Any new business will have to take a look at the property they want to build on, seek the proper permits, pay the proper fees. There's no reason why we have to dip into any general fund money to take care of those kind of issues. As alluded to earlier, you know, we recently were paying off the retirement fund debt that we had. That's great. That takes care of our retired police officers or safety officers. However, you have to maintain that ability to pay salaries to draw good people, or you won't be in single digits in crime. I've been there. 35 years worth of serving the people in a law enforcement agency that didn't take care of business, didn't watch for the future, didn't carefully weigh their housing issues, and they ended up building tons and tons of ghettos that people would move in, be it alcoholics, be it drug addicts, be it whatever. But that's what starts to deteriorate a community. I've seen it happen with my own eyes. I do not want that to happen in this town. So if we have to go to raise developer fees, oh, by the way, that study that was recently talked about also shows that we have the smallest water fees in the entire county here in Prescott Valley. So we may have to elevate water fees, which is still reasonable even if we elevate it. So that's another source. I'm not in favor of property taxes. I've seen other communities that have them, and hey, take a look at our neighbor town just to the west. They're going to try to pass a bond issue to take care of money they don't have. Now, I may have misspoke when I said used the word deficit. What I meant was you can't zero out your budget and live that way. Well, that's what they did. Now they're going back to the taxpayers saying, hey, consider bond issue so we can fill the coffers back up again.
Okay. Councilmember Lopez, this is your question. Our children, young adults, are our most valuable resource for the future. How do you propose we keep our local talent here rather than having them move to the valley once they graduate?
So you're going to need better careers, better housing, things to do. So how do we get there? We need better wages. We've already talked about CTED. We forgot about Yavapai College. They have a lot of career education that we could tap into. We need to talk to both of them. They're already having the conversations with the businesses that are giving the better wages. And we need to partner with them. How do we get those businesses here? How do we bring them into our own community to give the better wages? Once we create the better wages, we're going to have the better housing so that the kids can actually afford the homes that they need to live into to start their families. Then that'll give them the disposable income to have the things to do. Then we need to also market our town. We need to bring in more events, bring events here to the Findlay Toyota Center, bring more events into the downtown Prescott Valley area. I know this might be a hot button, but I just came off of a very long week of bringing in hundreds of people, thousands of people into Prescott. It was done by marketing. I had 17 countries that were represented at the rodeo, and that's done by marketing, and that helps with the tax bases, that helps with keeping people here, that helps getting those better wages for our children, which will keep them here. I personally have one child who lives here. I have one who moved to the Valley because she's a branch manager of a bank, and the wages here would not allow her to, as a branch manager of a bank, keep her home and keep her, sustain her life in even the Jasper community. So if she had better wages, she would have never left to the Valley. So I think those are the conversations we need to be having.
Okay. Councilmember Greer, this is your question. This is a two-part question, simple yes or no. Should the town focus on attracting new businesses?
Absolutely.
Which type of businesses should they attract and how?
Well, we spoke earlier about AI. I would, something like a chip manufacturing company would be pretty high wages and be a good draw for other businesses. We do need more businesses here, but also to attract businesses, once again, we need to be growing. They're not going to, a lot of businesses have a formula of what they need in order to build their business in a community, and they need to know that their business is going to grow along with the community. So that is something we need to focus on. We do have staff that are looking for new businesses all the time and trying to attract them here. And once again, I would do everything that I can to attract new businesses.
Okay. Mr. Abels, this is your question. Under your leadership, what would be your top priority?
Under my leadership, elected to council, I will practice what I preach, in that I would sit there and bring in ethics and civility on the dais, set the example. I hear a lot about how I don't consider government necessarily business. I understand that. That's great and that's important. Got to maintain the finances and the budgets and everything else. But I do believe that we need civility. I do believe that the people that elected me in the office, I represent those that elected me in office, as well as everybody else in the town of Prescott Valley. So if I was to say what leadership, I would just say that I would practice professional ethics, civility, and do the best I can to represent everybody.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our candidate debate tonight. I want to thank the candidates. It takes a lot of courage to run for office, so it's a time commitment, and honestly, we appreciate your service.
It was worth it.
Thank you. I'd like to thank our sponsors, Yavapai County Contracts Association, Prescott Area Association of Realtors, Up to Productions, and the Prescott Valley Chamber of Commerce. Thank you, Officer Carter. We didn't have any use for you tonight, but appreciate your service, and thank you for what you do. Take care, folks. Please get home safely tonight. Thank you.